Good evening, everybody. My name is Samuel Ronan. I am running for Congress in Ohio's 1st Congressional District as a New Deal sort of Republican, a 21st century New Deal Republican. And this is my weekly live stream. I apologize for being delayed in the past couple of weeks. It's just been crazy with the holidays, the weather, and, well, needing to go hit the pavement hard. However, this week's live stream will be same as always. There'll be a few standard topics with a question and answers at the end. Looks like I have some connectivity issues here on Facebook. Well, in either case, YouTube seems to be working well, so that's what we'll continue on with. As the headline goes, the progressive establishment. Now, that sounds counterintuitive, right? That sounds impossible. How could the progressive movement have an establishment? Well, let's think about it. Who in the progressive movement do you know? What names pop out to you the most? Is it the Justice Democrats? Is it TYT? Is it Nina Turner, Tulsi Gabbard, Bernie Sanders? Those are the names we all hear. Those are the organizations we only ever hear of. But in reality, there's so much more, so much more to the progressive movement than a few people and a few organizations. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of activists who want reform. Just today, I was knocking on doors, and despite the voter apathy, even in my district, even though these people are not going to protest, and even though these people aren't as much of an activist as you and I might be, they care. They want change. They want something different. That's why Trump has been so popular. That's why the populism in this country is on the rise. It's because people are sick and tired of the things as they are, of the status quo. But in our process and in our endeavors to change the country and to fix the problems that exist, we cannot fall victim to the very same problems that plague the Democratic and the Republican parties as actual entities. Now, I am running as a Republican, and I do have some conservative values. I also have liberal values, and I have values that are somewhere in between. That's the point. That's the way politics should be, and progressivism should be no different. Progressivism should be about fighting for the future, fighting for what is not currently here that should be, right? Taking care of our homeless, especially our homeless veterans. There is no greater tragedy than the military members of our society who have fallen to the wayside and are in just a destitute state of life. Even though these men and women were probably infantry, were probably seeing combat, probably don't have as good of transferable skills as, say, a mechanic or a medical personnelist, they have military training. They have military bearing. They've done things. They've worked with others. They've seen the world. They know what it takes to make a company run, how to make a team work, how to achieve goals. These are very marketable things. And to add on to it, that they're just living in the street, dying in the cold, getting kicked out of the VEAs, and just dumped on the street after having served their country, after having given everything for their country, is unacceptable. It's not a progressive ideal. That's not a Democrat ideal. That's not a Republican ideal. That is a human ideal. And that's what we need to focus on. We cannot just continue to throw labels at everything, and we can certainly not draw lines in the sand and say, I claim this side, you can have the other. That's the problem with the progressive establishment. We only listen to certain voices because, oh, well, they're the only ones I know, so they must be the ones that are correct. Or no, this is my organization. This is my path to victory. Therefore, it is the only path, the only organization. And that's just not true. We all have roles to play. We all have a part to play in this revolution, this reform effort, this change, if you will. Some of us run for office. Some of us knock on doors. Some of us fundraise. Some of us phone bank. Some of us help other organizations grow. Some of us focus on clean energy. Some of us focus on social change and reform. Some of us focus on all the different aspects of the reform. But we're all on the same team. We're all fighting for the same thing. We are all vying for the same goal. And we can't lose sight of that. We cannot be elitist. We cannot stare down our nose at those trying to do it a different way. I've been lambasted for running as a Republican. I was lambasted for even considering running as a Democrat. I'm lambasted currently for not running as a Green or an Independent. Why? My values have not changed. We have a system within which that we can work. That's it. There is the system. Whether we like it or not, there is a duopoly. And in the vast majority of states and in the vast majority of elections, you have one of two choices, Republican or Democrat. I don't like it. You certainly don't like it. And the other organizations certainly don't like it. But that is the hand that we are dealt. And to deny that fact is hubris. It's arrogance. It's foolishness. You cannot will something to change. You have to do the work. A lot of people say, well, if God is real, how can there still be war, suffering, and famine? God gave us free will, right? That's the whole point. God gave us the tools, the resources, the intelligence, the ability to make a difference, not to do it for us. The same thing with government, the same thing with reform, the same thing with anything you do. You can have natural talent. You can have natural skills. If you don't apply them, you will never, ever achieve anything. You think NFL superstars, you think musicians, you think artists just happened across their fame and fortune and landed in those positions because of whimsy? No, they put in hours upon hours of their lives into their craft, into their sport, into their art, what have you. Same thing for this economy, same thing for this education, same thing for this political revolution. If you're not willing to put in the work, it's not going to change. And if you refuse to budge, if you refuse to look at things from a different angle, if you continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, expecting different results, you will continue to fail. And you will fall on your lofty ideals. Your ideals are worthless if you cannot follow through and achieve them and affect change with them. You can be as idealistic as possible. You can be Martin Luther King Jr. reborn, Jesus Christ resurrected. And if you do not get into a position of power because you were too arrogant or too foolish or too whatever to run in a primary that you might not have even agreed with, or supported a candidate that would have achieved your goals, or ran a campaign, or did the thing that was necessary in order to win, and you lose, you only have yourself to blame. There is only one path to success, and that's victory. But victory is achieved through deliberate pursuit of that goal. And if the path least trodden is unavailable, then you have to take the one. You have to take the path that will achieve your goals. In my case, I must run as a Republican in this primary. And I must continue to talk to my constituents, and I must continue to reach them and their level. I cannot browbeat them with universal healthcare this, liberal ideas that, progressivism this. I have to talk to them in a way they will understand. Gun control needs to be realistic. It needs to be common sense. It doesn't mean get rid of all weapons and bullets and magazines. It means make sure you have the proper training and respect of the weapon that you hold. Right? Same thing with healthcare. It's not about giving away free stuff. It never was, never has been, never will be. It's about putting your tax dollars to use so that we can all benefit. About achieving that American dream. About fulfilling that promise. Right? If I ran as a Democrat or a Green or an Independent, my message would be lost. And all my platforms, all of my vision, all of my ideas would be meaningless because I could not wield the power or the authority necessary to achieve them. So, when you support the Justice Democrats, when you say vote blue no matter who, when you say we have to do it this way, that may very well be true in your area. That does not mean that is viable in other places. And it can't be. That's not necessarily the way this thing works. You must choose the path to victory that works in your area. Maybe you can run as a Democrat. Maybe you can run as Green Party or Justice Democrat or BNC. I don't really care. That's the point. We must all work together simultaneously, but in parallel. We can't all be on the same path. The same path does not work universally. That's the reason why politics is a differing field of opinions and views. The premise and the principles might be the same, but the path to that victory, to achieving those goals, are varied, just as varied as you and I. And that is the point. And we cannot allow ourselves to succumb to the very same rhetoric and the very same pitfalls that the Democrats and the Republicans do, saying, this is how it's going to be. You can either get on board or get off. We cannot be like that. We cannot alienate fellow progressives, fellow revolutionaries and activists and contenders for offices just because they don't do X, Y, and Z. We're not perfect. We're not all going to agree. And in fact, I'm happy if we agree on just half. If even a quarter of your policies align with mine, that means it's a quarter more than what currently exists. I don't mind debating with you or having the discussion or coming up with a different way of doing things. That is the point. And we cannot have these constant competitions of my progressivism is better than yours, my leader is better than yours, my organization is better than yours. Stop. Enough is enough. Do you want political reform, or do you want to have your cake and eat it too? Right? Do you want your soapbox, or do you want to affect change? Too many people want their soapbox. Too many people want their soapbox and are in positions of power and authority within the progressive movement. Newsflash! All of us are grassroots. All of us don't have resources. Every single last grassroots candidate is poor, is working, is doing this at their own expense, at their own detriment. Do you think I just have copious amounts of free time and a joy of 18-degree weather to go knocking on doors, tromping through the snow, when I have to go to work the next day and work a 3 to midnight shift? Of course not. I work full-time. I have to maintain a military standard as well. In fact, I need to get a haircut. This is not easy. This is not simple. This is a lot of hard work and stress and suffering and just dedication to something that matters. And I don't say that to brag. I don't say that to say you're not doing enough. I say that to put it in perspective. I need your help. I cannot do this alone. And neither can you. Neither can the Justice Democrats. Neither can Our Revolution. Neither can Nina Turner, Tulsi Gabbard, Bernie Sanders. You name the organization or the person. They cannot. They will not. They shall not achieve it on their own. If they could have, they would have. Believe me when I say, if it were in my power, my means, my abilities to bear the burden of the entire progressive movement on my shoulders, if it meant giving my life, if it meant sacrificing everything I have and everything I am so that we could achieve these reforms and none of you had to lift a single finger more, I would do that without a second thought. That's why I joined the military, to serve my country, to fulfill that promise, to fulfill that oath, to protect and defend, because I believe in what this country stands for, what it can stand for, what it was founded for, the principles, the people, the multicultural, multi-ethnic, multiracial, the melting pot of society is the ultimate human experiment, and it has not failed. We have just given up. That is why I'm doing what I'm doing. But I cannot do it alone. And I certainly can't do it when the rest of the progressive movement wants to fight me and call me arrogant and call me full of hubris and arrogance and whatever else. This is idiotic. This is foolish. I'm not arrogant. I am trying to get people to understand that this is a team effort. I'm trying to convey the message that I don't care what your political affiliation is. So long as your principles and your values align, we're on the same team. Use the tools and resources at your disposal. Quit sticking your nose up at something because it's not perfect. That's life. That's the human condition. We are not perfect. We never will be. We're not meant to be perfect. We're supposed to be fallible. I'm gonna make mistakes. I am going to fail you. I am going to let you down at some point. And then I'm gonna fight to regain that trust, or to rebuild that failure, or to do whatever it takes to do what is right and necessary. If I stumble, I stumble. You will stumble. Everybody will stumble. It's about getting back up and working together to make sure that it doesn't happen again, or that if it does, there are fail-safes in place. That is what is missing. And until we all collectively understand that. We will continue to lose. This isn't scare tactics. This isn't fear-mongering. If we do not work together, we will continue to lose. Trump will continue to win. Clinton will run for president again. We will continue to have establishment shills who do not give a damn about you and me. They will say whatever they will say to get elected and on the camera, and then they'll turn right around and vote against your best interests. They will take away your health care. They will increase your burdens on taxes. They will make you drown in even further student loan debt. They will continue to pollute our water and our air. They will continue to destroy the economy that can only benefit them instead of all of us collectively. This isn't about being right. This isn't about having the right ideas or being the hero. It's about getting the mission done. And I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm done playing these games. I will start aggressively and directly pursuing these goals. And if you get in my way, if you get in our way, if you become a problem, a deterrent, a distraction to the process, I will circumvent you. I will move right past you. We will move right past you. Because we cannot afford to drag you along, kicking and screaming. The saying goes, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So far, we are the horse at the trough, refusing to drink. We have to be the change. We have to do more. We have to be different. We have to break this cycle. I don't care if you're a Justice Democrat. I don't care if you're a bleeding heart liberal or a staunch conservative. I care that you fight for the American people, that you want to make a positive impact for the men and women in this country. That is what matters to me. In achieving those goals, achieving that end is what matters. So go and volunteer with the Justice Democrats. Be a supporter of Our Revolution. Use the Our Voice canvassing app. Use the Our Voice candidate directory. Use the tools at your disposal. Bring candidates on board. Help them. Donate to them. Volunteer for them. Spread the word about them. But spread the word about each other as well. Too many of us get on Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, on these news networks and have our interviews, and we don't mention any other candidates. And I don't know if what I'm about to say is 100% correct. I do know I have heard no other mention of any other progressive candidate when Stephen Jaffe or Tim Canova or any of the other major progressive candidates have gotten their 5 minutes of fame. When I was on CNN last, I literally had 5 minutes. And I mentioned 4 candidates. Jimmy Connolly, Lindsey Brown, Tim and Stephen Jaffe, and Lisa Ring. Those, actually, so that would be 5. I mentioned 5 people in my 5 minutes because that matters. Because they need that exposure, just like I need that exposure. If we do not use our opportunities to help one another, we will fail, we will falter, and this revolution will never, ever succeed. We will continue to spin our wheels. Why do you think in the past 40 years we have not achieved progressive ideologies? Why do you think we have not achieved the American dream? Why do you think corporations continue to win and the establishment continues to reign control over us? Why do you think that is? Because we have never once pulled our heads out of our asses and worked together. And I'm sorry, I know I'm new to this game. I know I am the new kid on the block. But I have but 2 eyes and 2 ears. And I fancy myself at least moderately intelligent. It does not take a genius and it does not take a lifelong activist to see that our confrontation, our struggle, our unwillingness to work together, and our hubris that our vision is the only vision is what's keeping us apart. We cannot allow this to continue. I hope I've hit that point home hard enough. So, the next part was our future. Actually, let me address a question real quick on the YouTube. How can we win elections when deep state and superdelegates choose our candidates? Right? So actually, that's part of our future. That's a great tie-in. Nobody is saying that it isn't easy, right? That this is a very difficult process and that a bunch of hurdles are in place and that a lot of things are stacked against us. I'm not arguing that fact. What I am saying is that if we don't participate in the process in the first place, if we do not help support those candidates who we want to win, then they can't win. If we don't vote for them, if we don't volunteer for them, if we don't donate to them, they cannot win. That's just a fact. Running for Congress usually covers an area that has 500,000 or more people in it. My district has 750,000 people in it. I personally cannot knock on, well, let's cut that number in half, arguably, 350,000 doors. I cannot do it. At most, in a week, if I quit my job from sunup to sundown knocking on doors and just knock on every single door, I peaked at 8,000. So let's do 8,000 divided by 325,000. Let me tell you how many weeks that is. That's a full year. One person cannot do that. That is completely impossible. That is not feasible. It takes collective effort. It takes community. It takes us working together and not fighting each other constantly, or disparaging one another, or throwing each other under the bus. We have to continue working together. That is our future. Our future is in our collectiveness, in our ability to adapt and to overcome, to work together and to achieve cumulative goals. Our future is based on our willingness to do the things that are needed in order to win. And our future is in our own hands. That's what people mean by pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Your fate is in your hands. There's just a lot of crap stacked against us that we have to overcome, overwhelm, climb over, go around. This is true. There are things in place in the Democratic Party, in the Republican Party, in the election process itself that prevents people like you and me from running in the first place. Yes, delegates are a problem. Yes, our voting machines are susceptible to hacking and infiltration. Yes, our voter rolls get purged right before every election cycle. And yes, even your ballots might get cast aside and ignored and collect dust in Broward County and New York City. That is a fact, that it can and it will continue to happen. But if we don't vote at all, they win. They get away with their corruption and their control. If we do not vote and canvass and get the word out that there are other options, then people will not know. And even if they did vote, and even if it did count, it would not go towards the future that we need, to the reforms that are going to ensure that these injustices, that these corrupt actions can never take place again. You cannot give up on the system simply because it is corrupted or corroded. You have to be a part of it. You have to get a little dirty. You have to soil your hands enough to get involved and clear the muck away. Then you can wash your hands. Then you can focus on achieving the goals. Because once you're in, you're in. And I don't think people really grasp that concept. You cannot affect change unless you're part of the process. You can't get Bernie Sanders elected or Tulsi or Nina or whoever's running that you support unless you vote for them. Doesn't matter what party they choose to run. If Bernie Sanders chooses to run as a Democrat or a Republican or a Green Party or an independent, it shouldn't matter because it's Bernie freaking Sanders. His platform is the platform we believe in, is it not? So vote for him. It doesn't matter what the other progressives run under. It might make more sense to run as a Republican or a Democrat. Vote for them. This is not about the party. It's not about the duopoly. It's about the person. Support the person, regardless of their affiliation. And we will win. That is our future. That is the only path to victory. That is the only way we can affect this change. Convincing and encouraging our friends and our neighbors and our family to go out there and vote. If your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't work so tirelessly to prevent you and discourage you from voting. Voter suppression is so that they can stay in power, because they know if they didn't suppress the vote, if they made it easier and friendlier and more welcoming to vote, they would never, ever get elected again, and they will lose control. They will lose their power and their authority. So vote. Take it away from them. Deny them their corruption by taking it from them deliberately and in the very way they fear most during election time. 435 congressmen are up for re-election. Some odd 260, 70 something of them are Republicans who clearly just vote in a way to devastate you. And then there's another 100 or so Democrats who also vote against the best interests of the American people. There's maybe a handful of congressmen and senators combined that actually give a damn about you. And I'd be shocked if you could count them all in one hand. I think we got Tammy Duckworth, Tulsi Gabbard, Bernie Sanders. Some might argue Ted Lieu. Four people who give a damn about you. 4 out of 535. And 470 of which are up for re-election. You can affect change each and every single 2 years. 2 years, that's it. Every single 2 years, you can clean house. Literally, you can clean the House of Representatives every 2 years. Just because Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, Ted Cruz, name another entrenched politician, is an entrenched politician does not mean they can't be unseated. And that certainly doesn't mean that they can't have a upset election cycle, because if people vote against them, they lose. Period. That is our future. That is our strength. That must be what we fight for. Go to rallies, go to protests, knock on doors, phone bank, participate in all of the activist organizations, but do not forget to vote and to get others to vote and to register to vote and to participate in the democratic process. Yes, there is more than one way to victory, more than one way to achieve political reform. Activism and protesting only changes public opinion. It's the legislative process that solidifies that public opinion. Otherwise, we'd still have slavery. Otherwise, we'd still have Jim Crow laws. Otherwise, women still wouldn't have the right to vote. If that was not set in stone into the 19th Amendment, it wouldn't exist. It wouldn't matter how many protests there were, how many women suffragists there were. If it did not become law, they would still not have the right to vote. Period. So activism serves the purpose of changing public opinion, yes. Perfect. Do it. Go out there, protest, then vote. And get those people elected to change the laws so that we can start winning and changing the deplorable state of our nation's affairs. It cannot be done solely through protest, because these people in power have a vested interest in continuing along the same path that they have been. They aren't interested in changing because it doesn't benefit them. Fine, vote them out. Elect people who it does benefit to change the way things are. Elect people who give a damn. Elect people who work for a living, who were in maintenance, who were in the medical field, who were teachers and doctors and every other facet of society. Quit electing bankers and lawyers, and then be shocked when you have nothing but bank and law regulations that benefit bankers and lawyers, and the wealthy and the powerful. That's not how you affect change. You affect change by changing the way things are. And that is not solely done by protest, and that is not solely done by activism. That includes electing people, spreading their message, and highlighting their campaigns. So, that was my 30 minutes of, I guess, yelling. We can now move forward to the chatting. We can open this up to the Q&A section if people have some questions that they'd like to ask. Otherwise, I can certainly go into some other topics, like more current event topics. Ooh. Hey, Matt, how's it going? Thanks for helping out, by the way, and making calls to, the politicians that you've been calling all weekend. Very, very helpful. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. See, Matt is one of those people who are like, I don't understand the progressive movement. And in fact, he's one of the reasons why he inspired me to talk about it today, because he is a complete outsider. He's a complete outsider to the progressive movement. He worked for the Chris Christie campaign, in fact. And so he was a Republican. He was in the Republican establishment. And he saw things differently. And he's seeing things now in the progressive movement, and he says, it makes no sense to me. It is just as corrupt and self-serving as it is in the regular parties. You have these leaders denying others access to the table, not sharing resources when resources are scarce in the first place. You have a lot of people without anything wanting a seat at the table but refusing to give other people that very same seat that they fought for. And that's the problem. Doesn't matter how much you have to offer at the table. Showing up, sitting there, having a discussion, that's enough. That's the point. So, thank you, Matt, for bringing it to my attention in such a very deliberate manner. I believe... Oh, okay. I thought somebody wanted me to talk about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. I see. People are going to hate, apparently. I think cryptocurrency is a future, though, and, you brought that upon yourself. Cryptocurrency really is changing the way things function. More and more businesses are allowing you to use cryptocurrency to purchase goods. So those people who say, well, it's not worth anything, not true. It's worth as much as you can pay for this comb. If an industry allows you to purchase something with this cryptocurrency, it has value. The very same dollar value that if you spent your actual dollars. So, to me, I think cryptocurrency is here to stay. I think it's part of the future, and I think we would be remiss to dismiss it out of hand and not at least participate in its process as well. Again, you can't benefit, you can't change, you can't do anything unless you participate. To your point, Green, you're right. We do need clean energy to make cryptocurrency more palatable in the mining process because, right, I mean, it does use electricity, right? I'm mining right now on my computer. That might have been why there was some lag in the video stream. It does take power, and I think I do have at least up to 50% clean energy from my carrier, but that's not 100%. And here's the thing, our country has the potential to have fully 100% clean energy. If we did solar roadways, I get it. People argue, oh, that's not sustainable, it's economically impossible. Okay, 3 million square miles of solar panel, though. That will power the damn country, and then some. And then all we need to do is develop storage units to store the excess, and then we can sell it or keep it as needed. We can be energy independent like that, and it would generate permanent jobs and a massive, massive infrastructure overhaul. If I were in Congress, if I were president, if I were Grand Poobah for a day, that would be one of the first things I would do, is invest in our infrastructure by making it green energy. Here's another thing. All these roads, all these, the ice on the highways and all that, imagine what a solar roadway could do. You could heat it up to 40 degrees to prevent snow from ever melting in the first place. Just saying, you would make the roads significantly safer at all times of the year. That in itself would be worth its weight in gold, I would imagine. Saving lives, preventing accidents, ensuring safety during times of inclement weather, or emergency for that matter. let's see. Well, one thing that I did want to talk about is this whole distraction, right? Part of the reason why I think everything is still so, what's the word? Contentious isn't the right word, but it suits what I'm trying to say, is because our media likes to sensationalize everything. It wasn't just first, but I mean very recently, it was that supposedly Trump's called African and poor third world countries shithole nations. But now it turns out that that was a complete made-up lie fabricated by the Democrats. Yet for an entire news cycle, Trump said this, Trump said that. Oh, really? Well, look at this Somali, look at this Ghana, look at this person from one of these countries who is a doctor, a lawyer, a hero who died in a fire. All these great and amazing people who live in our country from these nations. That was our news cycle for a day. When what happened, right? North Korea and South Korea sat down for the first time in decades. Generations, they sat down at the table and talked. Literally talked peace. The United Nations is going after the humanitarian crisis that's going on throughout, well, the freaking world, right? On top of juggling the Israel-Palestine conflict, right? We have the Trump administration that continues to be a detriment to our own country, right? Where we still have Betsy DeVos trying to privatize our education system. That's being ignored. What about the Sam's Club store closures or the Amazon worker layoffs? Being utterly ignored. But they touted the fact that they gave bonuses to everybody. Everything is distraction. This is why I say, when people ask me, did you hear what Trump said or did? Or have you heard about this nonsense? No. And quite frankly, I don't care. Because it's a distraction. It's irrelevant to the point. I know things are screwed up. I know we are suffering immensely as a country. And that we are being just a stain on the world. I know this. If Trump turns right around tomorrow and does call everybody in third world countries shitholes, I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. It's not new. What would be new is if he signed an executive order legalizing marijuana across the country. That would be new. That would capture my attention. If he literally went down to Fifth Avenue and murdered somebody in cold blood, that would capture my attention. If Congress grew a conscience and Republican Senate, Republican House, Republican Supreme Court decided to pass universally education, healthcare, minimum wage, enforcing trickle-down economics, actually serving the country, that would capture my attention. But every time there's a scandal, every time they do something corrupt or heinous or pedogate this, or said something idiotic that, or insulted half the country this, that's not news. That's not newsworthy at all. That's status quo. That's the way things have been. And it keeps you from doing the work that you need to do. Going back to working together, doing what needs to be done, and not losing focus. If we cannot focus on the task at hand, we're never going to achieve it. If we allow ourselves to keep being pushed and pulled and led by the nose by media, as much as we lambast media, oh, that's fake news and they're only lying to us and CNN is BS and Fox News is crap. Stop watching it. Stop listening to it. Stop talking about it. We talk about boycotting this, boycotting that. Turn off the television. Whatever they're spewing is propaganda at this point. We know this. I know this. You know this. We all know this. We don't need to go on Facebook and say, look at what this propaganda is. Screw them. Not just because they won't put me on, this is probably why, but because it's unnecessary. I don't need to hear propaganda to know it's propaganda or to know that it exists. And I don't need to comment on propaganda to say that it's propaganda because I know it's propaganda. We get it. Propaganda. Bad. That cannot stop us, prevent us, or in any sort, form, or fashion, hinder us from doing what needs to be done. Achieving political reform, getting people elected, protesting, getting people registered to vote. These are the things we need to focus on. Forget Donald Trump. Forget the Republican administration. Forget everything that they do. Yes, be aware that horrible things are happening, but chalk it up to what motivation you need to ensure that in 2018, we get all of those assholes out of office. Bar none. This isn't rocket science. We know they're doing horrible, horrendous things, and we know the only way to change it is to get them out of office. So, fine, horrible things are going to continue to happen. This is just a fact. It's horrible. I hate it. I wish there was something I could do about it. There isn't, other than what I'm currently doing. Running for office, representing the country, fighting for our ideals. That is what I am doing. That's all I can do. We are powerless to stop Congress doing what they're doing right now. We can call them, we can petition, we can protest outside of their offices, and they will ignore us. Because we haven't done anything to force them to listen. And until we collectively do something like that, it's not going to change. So, we have to focus on what we can control. Getting people elected. Getting the message out there. Getting people aware of the 21st century New Deal. That is our mission. And we cannot lose focus from that mission for even an instant. Because every second wasted, every minute, every hour, every day wasted, spouting whatever filth they want us to, and to listen and hear and to spread, is a victory. It is time lost that we cannot regain, that is necessary to effect the change that we need. If I sat here and commented on every idiotic thing I saw on Facebook that Republicans and Democrats and Trump did or said this weekend alone, I wouldn't be doing this live stream because I'd still be posting or writing an article or doing something. If I went live every time something stupid happened on media, I would never turn off my phone. It would just be live. Be like, oh, here I am at work. Oh, hey, by the way, guys, did you just see this idiotic thing that just happened? Yeah, by the way, I'm going to go right back to work. Oh, look, another stupid thing. The time for distraction is over. The time for being led by the nose is over. The time for arguing is over. The time for infighting is past. The time for action is upon us. Now, the primaries are here. This is not some future, some arbitrary in 2018. The primaries start next month, February, end of January. Your primary begins. What are you doing with it? What are you doing about it? Who are you supporting? Who's running? Do you even know who's running? Guess what? The Our Voice candidate directory can tell you. Spread the word. Get people to sign up on it. Get people to put their candidates on there. Use the Our Voice app because you'll see who's currently in office and you'll be able to see, you'll be able to go to their website, see what they stand for and be like, you know what, screw that. Paul, no. Mitch, no, absolutely not. These are my representatives and they will be voted out of office. The Our Voice app has that in the palm of your hand with 3 button taps. Sign in, your representative, your address, bam. That's who's there. That's who needs to go. The time to be idle, the time to rant on Facebook and Twitter is over. If you're on social media and all you're doing is resharing, retweeting, or ranting, you're wrong. You are dead wrong. And you're wasting everybody's time, including your own. If you are not sharing information about candidates, if you're not sharing information about events or meetings of the DSA, of the Green Party, of what have you, if you're not sharing information on how to get involved in the political process, how to become a Democratic delegate, how to become a Republican delegate, how to do any of these things, you're wrong. And you need to stop. And you need to think and ask yourself, am I doing something that's going to benefit these elections, these activist efforts? Are my actions benefiting the process? Or am I just adding to the noise? Right? That doesn't mean stop posting your funny cat videos or your dinner or, your kid putting paint all over the face, running around, smearing it on walls and saying, I'm going to murder my child. Ha ha ha. That doesn't mean stop living your life. It means if you're going to be active. Be active. Be conscientious of your activism. Be effective. Be part of the solution, not the problem. And if all you're doing is regurgitating whatever nonsense came out of the news, then you're part of the propaganda machine. You are giving them free exposure to spread their filth and their message. And until that changes, until we work collectively, deliberately, on the things that are needed, they're never going to get done. They're just not. And then the primary season, the primary cycle will come and go. Incumbents will get reelected. And this entire frustration, this agony, this divisiveness will only get worse, and it will continue to get worse, and it will drag on until the 2020 presidency, where we will once again be given a choice between Trump, an establishment Democrat, Jill Stein, and whatever progressive chooses to run, Bernie Sanders, Tulsi, what have you. And at the end of the day, if we don't support one, be it Bernie Sanders or the other progressive, or even Jill Stein, I don't really care. If we don't go all in behind one of them, it's going to be between Trump and whoever the Democrats pick. And the cycle will continue. Is that what you want? Because right now, the way the Justice Democrats is operating, the way brand new Congress, our revolution, the leaders of the various movements and the organizations, the infighting that happens at the local levels, these things will guarantee that we will have a Hillary versus Donald Trump 2020 or a Joe Biden versus Donald Trump 2020. This is how we ensure that incumbents that have an 11% approval rating or worse, depending on which poll you look at, will get a 97% reelection rate. It is time to stop fighting each other. Our strength is in our numbers, not in our wealth, not in our power, in our numbers. We outnumber them, hundreds of thousands of millions to one. We are the 99%. We, the people, are the 99%. There's some odd 450,000 elected positions in the entire United States of America. 450,000 is not even 1% of 300 million. It's not 1% of 270 million. Not even 1% of our country is elected officials. And you think we can't change that fact? Wrong. The reason why we have been failing is because we have not been using our strength, our numbers, our collectiveness. And until we do, we will continue to lose. And I will continue to lambaste each and every single person who refuses to work together with another simply because of whatever idiotic excuse. I don't like doing it that way. Now, I think we should focus on this. No, we should do both. And if we can't agree to work together, then we are no better than them. If we cannot work together to achieve common goals, we are no better than the Democrats and the Republicans that we claim to want to destroy and replace. In fact, we're worse because we have them as an example with which to not duplicate. And we do it anyway. What's worse? Being the bad example or following it? That is the question we have to ask ourselves. I know the answer to that question for myself. Do you? Do your friends? Do your neighbors? Do your fellow revolutionaries and activists? Because methinks the answer is no. And that needs to change. It needs to change with sincere alacrity. All right. A question as I went off on a tangent there. Actually, 1 second. Gotta wet the palate. Do you feel there is a need to increase domestic manufacturing? Not only to increase jobs, but also to make us more competitive in international trade? Yes and no. So, manufacturing as an industry is being replaced by automation. That is a fact. And it's because that's just how technology works. We don't have milkmen anymore. We don't have horse and buggy repair people. We don't have what's another? We don't have shoe repairmen, right? We don't have. Trying to think. Well, we don't have TV repairmen for that matter, right? There are things that are being pushed to the wayside, technologically speaking, that are not going to return. The coal mining industry is dying as well. It should. But the transition should be into clean energy. It shouldn't just fall to pieces and everybody that was a part of the coal industry just suffers. Same thing with manufacturing. The manufacturing industry will continue to fail and to suffer, and it will continue to hemorrhage jobs as automation continues to improve. But that's not a bad thing, the automation, because technology is good. The faster and easier something can be made, the cheaper it can be sold. However, that means people need to be able to be transitioned into some other work, whatever that may take. That's why one of my platform policies is a school-to-work program and also a state-sponsored job placement program to include relocation assistance. If you're in a manufacturing job and it's being replaced by automation and you don't have a skill other than, pressing the lever or button or doing whatever it is you do at a manufacturing assembly line, then you should have the opportunity to go to the state or go back to school and acquire a skill that is needed: electrician, construction, plumbing, robotics, whatever the case may be. And if you complete that necessary job task and you still can't find a job because, say you live in BFE, Mississippi, and there's no robotics industry there because there isn't. But, or maybe not in that part of Mississippi, maybe in northern or southern or wherever Mississippi. Well, the state of Mississippi can help you relocate to where it is, and then you can apply that skill. That's what we need. We don't need to bring back and breathe new life into coal and oil and gas and manufacturing and all these unskilled labor positions. What we need to do is create a transition from those jobs into skilled labor positions, which are A, more needed, and B, pay more. That's what we need to do. The argument that burger flippers and cart pushers and cashiers should be teenagers isn't entirely wrong. That should be an entry-level position. That should be a way to get your feet wet into the workforce. That doesn't mean you deserve a poverty wage by no stretch of the word. Am I saying that? I am saying unskilled labor should be for unskilled persons. And unskilled persons tend to be teenagers or first-time entries into the workforce. That is just the reality. I was a cart pusher at Meijer, and I made sandwiches at Subway, and I did door-to-door sales for Uverse. Oh, and I was a paperboy when I was like 11. So I've done these menial, unskilled jobs, and I was grateful for the opportunity because I had a paycheck. But I was a kid. I lived at home. I had a roof over my head. I didn't have to pay bills. I didn't have to pay for groceries. So it was, hey, I had spending money. I could take my friends out to the movies. I could go out on dates with pretty girls and buy them, shiny things. That's what my money was for, right? But as an adult who has all these bills, I can't afford a $7 an hour. I can't even afford $15 an hour. Rent here alone is $900. $800, $600, $500. Okay, cool. $500. Well, then I still need a car payment. I still need gas. I still need health insurance. I still need this, that, and the other. Still need food. And my fat ass eats a lot, right? So whether it was eating out or groceries, I'm spending anywhere between $100 and $150 every 2 weeks on food alone. So that's $300 plus anywhere between $400 to $900 in rent, plus a car payment, plus insurance, plus utilities. Adds up real quick to about anywhere from $1,500 to $2,200 a month in bills. So unless I'm bringing home $2,200 and I can't even meet my expenses. I can't even break even. So we need higher wages, yes. We also need to transition to skilled labor. But we also need to enforce this concept that as an employee, I have participated in the growth and the revenue and the profit of this organization and this company, and I am entitled to a portion of that profit. I did the work. I did the thing. I made the frickin' sandwich. I pushed the carts. I knocked on the frickin' door. I put in my hours. I deserve a piece of the pie. Not the whole pie, not $1 billion, right? If a company has 2 million employees, then that's 2 million shares, 2 million individuals that participated in that $80 billion profit. So 80 billion divided by 2 million, that's not very much. It's like a couple thousand. Cool. A couple thousand. That's not a problem. That's what we need to focus on. I hope that answered the question. Crap. USA export source from YouTube. I hope that answered your question. I do believe in bringing back American jobs, absolutely, but it's not to bring back unskilled jobs. It's to bring back and emphasize skilled labor positions and improving that capability and making it easier to access. And once you achieve that skill, that you can actually apply that skill in the workforce, because otherwise you're wasting everybody's time and resources by acquiring it in the first place. So this is another interesting question. How do you feel about the right to repair? Also from YouTube, Sidious. In some ways, yes. I think the option to repair your own phone, if you have the capabilities, should be there. I mean, I installed a graphics card on my computer, which I could have paid $30 in labor to get done, but then, you know, it took me 2.5 hours to figure it out with my campaign manager who does it for a living. But, you know, if you can do something yourself, that should always be an option. But, you know, if it's not something that you can do, then it should also be an option for you to purchase that service. There should be a balance. The service should be available, but so should be the ability to do it yourself. And if you mess it up, that's on you, that you have to then pay the consequences for. And I think to that end, yes, I do think people should have the right to their own abilities to deal with their own stuff. Let's see. Well, actually, looks like we got to wrap this up. We're coming up on the hour, and I don't want everybody to miss Bernie Sanders Town Hall just for watching little old me. So, I guess to wrap this this particular stream up, my name is Samuel Ronan. I'm running for Congress in Ohio's 1st Congressional District. You can find me at www.ronanforcongress.com. You can donate there, you can volunteer there, you can share, you can do whatever you want from that website. You can find me on Twitter at Ronan4Progress, and you can find me on Facebook, Ronan FOR Congress. That would be my verified page. As always, I enjoy working with you. I enjoy doing these live streams and these town halls. I am very approachable, very accessible. Please ask me questions. Please pick my brain. I'm more than happy to have the discussion with you and help you along on your efforts, right? The candidate directory and app, I'll be more than happy to show you how they work and spread the word about how it is changing the way progressives and grassroots run campaigns and participate in activism. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this week's live stream.